I'm a Brit, you can probably hear it, and I grew up believing that Australia was basically a live-action survival film. Killer spiders, killer sharks, killer crocs. Every film, every documentary, every top 10 most dangerous places videos were trying to convince me that Australia would end me. And then I moved here, and yes, there are a few spiders, and yes, there are some sharks, but those aren't actually the things that caught me off guard or made me feel scared. After leaving the UK feeling stuck, fed up, and wanting something bigger, I finally made the leap. And what I didn't expect was this. There were going to be 8 things in Australia that absolutely terrify me. And I promise you, they're not what you think. Some of them are a bit funny, some of them are embarrassing, and one of them right at the end surprised me the absolute most. Let's get into it. And hey mate, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Sam, a British actor documenting my journey of rebuilding life in Australia. Number 1, huntsman spiders. So I thought I was mentally prepared for this. I'd seen a few photos online before coming here, and I thought, blimey, they're big, but when I see one, I'll be alright. And every Aussie says to you, they're harmless, mate. Basically the Labrador of spiders, I think someone once said. But my first encounter was in a Baskin-Robbins car park. Imagine that, we've just parked, ready for some really yummy ice cream. I get out the car, I see a huntsman spider a few steps away from me. He looks at me with one eyebrow cocked, or 4 eyebrows cocked, and he starts running towards me. At the same time, this is the first live action experience I'm seeing one with my very own eyes. I'm noticing the thickness of its body, of its legs, of its abdomen. Oh my word, it's just quite chilling to the core. In the UK, spiders are like little garden fellas. You can relocate them with a glass and a lovely postcard from Spain if they get inside your house. They're harmless. You never think they're gonna bite you really because they're teeny tiny.
I actually really don't want to right now.
He's so big. Why is he so big?
I've never seen a spider so big in my life. He's too big.
By the way, huntsman spiders, they don't kill humans. If they bit you, it would bloody hurt and you probably would want to go to hospital, but they eat, smaller things like birds, which is still extremely terrifying. And that was my first little, Australia's different. I just want to preface this by saying, although these are things that I do actually find quite scary, I love living here and I feel safe. This is the safest I've ever felt in a country. So please don't take these things seriously. If you're enjoying this video, by the way, hit that little like button so, more people can see it. Number 2, Aussie road rage. Now, I knew Australia liked big vehicles, but I was not prepared for the amount of utes. I was not prepared for the amount of 4-wheel drives with these massive bull bars on, something I'd never seen before. It looks like the whole Mad Max starter pack. And look, a lot of Aussies need these vehicles because they have agriculture businesses, But I have noticed that sometimes in these very large vehicles, some of these drivers think that they are the most important drivers on the road. In the UK, we do get some pretty bad road rage.
Oh, running Pickering!
But if one of these massive vehicles in Australia gets caught up behind you and they're speeding, which I see quite a lot in Brisbane, they want to go faster than the speed limit, but they're stuck behind you. But I see these massive cars with the bull bars on driving right up the backside of other drivers and almost like they're about to rear end the vehicle. And look, I've always been a very confident driver. I never felt unsafe, but I'm not going to lie. Sometimes when I'm on the motorway in Australia and some of these drivers are around, and they're not always in the big vehicles, I must say, I sometimes don't feel that safe. I always think the safest thing to do with road rage is not engage with it, not swear back at them or anything. It's honestly just get out of their way as fast as possible because it's not worth your life or your loved ones in the car with you. It's not worth it. Of course, it's not everyone, nor is it everyone who drives these vehicles, which brings me on to staying alert for something quite different. And by the way, I noticed recently that over 87% of you who regularly watch these videos aren't yet subscribed. So if you're enjoying this and want to join the community, then hit that lovely little subscribe button. It's free, by the way. Number 3, bull sharks in the Brisbane River. My wife's family here in Australia would joke to me about there being sharks in the Brisbane River, and I would say to them, yeah, right. And before Maddie and I got married, I took her on a little date where we did kayaking along the Brisbane River with one of these adventure companies. We got in and we were having a great time, and I decided to show off what happens every time the City Cat ferries that people commute on come past you. Because they're pretty powerful vehicles, they create a load of waves, and when you're on a little kayak, it can really rock you. And Maddie was trying to, get in the right direction so it wouldn't flip her over, and I was trying to show off, and I was like, Maddie, look at this, you just need to do this turn. And as I turned, I come out of the river, and Maddie's like, quick, there's bull sharks in the river. And I'm like, what? And so I'm flailing onto the upside down kayak, trying to flip it over and get in. Absolutely soaked through. Okay, don't have a change of underwear at this point, and we've got dinner reservations for 1 hour's time, so that's brilliant. And then afterwards, I see this video on TikTok, this guy filming a shark in the Brisbane River, which is absolutely crazy. Look, you're not going to go swimming in the muddy snake, as some Brisbaneites like to call it, but kayaking and falling out of a kayak, especially if it's your first time, is a very real thing. And the fact that you can do this in the Brisbane River, and that feeling of being unsettled, it's not always about animals. But before we get into that, I'm absolutely dying for a coffee, so let's go get one. Now, before I face bull sharks or go for my morning run or even have my delicious Australian coffee, I do one thing. I turn my VPN on. And I actually mean this. NordVPN have very kindly sponsored this video. Thank you, NordVPN. But I wouldn't have said yes to it unless I actually believed in it. So very simply, a VPN is basically putting your internet inside a very secure tunnel so strangers can't peek at it and look at what you're doing. Everyone always says get a VPN on your computer, which is true, it's important, but no one ever talks about putting one on your phone, which arguably most people use more. Perfect. And this thing is my life. I do my banking on it, I schedule YouTube videos and write scripts and plan travel. And yes, I occasionally take heroic beach photos. Basically, there's a lot of private stuff on there. So Nord Threat Protection Pro is one of the reasons why I like them so much. It blocks dodgy ads, stops you from walking onto sketchy websites. It's basically like having a really good barista that refuses to serve you a cup of coffee if you've got something weird floating in the top of it. And their dark web monitor is the other thing that sold me. A lot of data leaks never get reported, so your emails and passwords could be floating around out there and you'd never even know about it. So what this does is it scans the murky waters of the internet, all the dodgy back alleys, right, and alert you if your details pop up somewhere that they shouldn't. And the best part is that it keeps scanning even when you're not connected, which that's actually amazing. Look, you don't wait until you're sunburned before you put sunscreen on. That's something I learned very quickly living in Australia. That's how I like to think about this. It's just something that you switch on before you go about your day. Look at that. Ooh, beautiful. So you get NordVPN, you get 4 months extra, and they have a 30-day money-back guarantee, which is always reassuring. Either use the link on screen here, or it's in the top of the description below. Right, let's get back to it. Oh. Number 4 is running in bushland. And that is not a euphemism. The idea of going for a peaceful run in Australian bushland, to me, before I moved to Australia, was, kind of exciting. I'm going to be at one with nature. But stepping on a camouflage snake amongst the leaves on the path, that's the end of the story. That's a very real thing that can happen in bushland. Statistically, very low, very low. When I first stepped into Australian bushland, I made a short about this the other day and loads of Aussies were like, you're just being silly, man. I was really overwhelmed because the corridor of trees, they really enclose in on you. The whole foliage around you doesn't feel like a quaint little UK woods. It feels more spacious in UK woodland. I don't know why, but in Australian bushland, it's more dense. Everything is growing everywhere. I know there isn't jungle in Australians, but it feels like a jungle. That's how it feels to a foreigner like me. When I'm running, I'm kind of locked in. I'll look at the path ahead of me, but not really anywhere else. Don't know why I'm telling you that. So I'm sure I've run past thousands of snakes by now and never even noticed. I've only ever seen one snake in Australia, and it was a red-bellied black snake. It was wild, but beautiful and terrifying. Now, I do just want to say, being far away from home is kind of a bit of a fear in itself. There's something about being 24 hours away from everyone you grew up with and, you know, the shops, and your mum and dad and things like that. When you're in your 20s and stuff, it feels really adventurous, it feels bold and brave. But the older I get, the more I realise the world can change very quickly, which is a bit scary. Airlines can shut down, borders can close, big events can happen. And look, I know I'm being a bit of a pessimist right now. We know that history repeats itself. And there's this quiet thought in the back of my head that says, what if I can't get back? But it is a real fear that I don't know if there's really a solution to, other than just appreciating what you have now. Sometimes I even think if the whole world went mad, Australia is probably one of the best places to be. But distance does something to you. It stretches your heart out a little bit. And you stop and you laugh at yourself and you go, right, back into bushland to be with the spiders and snakes. Number 5, flooding in Brisbane specifically. That's where I live. I first arrived in Brisbane as a tourist in early 2022, and anyone who remembers that time, Brisbane had awful floods. Like the river was overflowing and people's homes and cars and just were washing away and people's lives were getting destroyed. And in other parts outside of Brisbane, towns were actually underwater. And the thing is, it wasn't a once in a lifetime event either. Australia has had some pretty awful floods in the past. You can only imagine there's going to be some pretty bad ones in the future. It's a part of living here. The thing is, through living with my Aussie wife and her relatives and having Aussie mates here, when you look for a place to rent, you always check the local flood maps, because these provide data from previous floods and give you an estimate of whether that area is likely to flood again. Honestly, unless it was a particular town or place in the UK, this isn't something Brits would typically do. Number 6, flying to Australia. Look, I've done the flight loads of times now, UK to Australia, and I lived in Japan for a couple of years. I know how privileged I am to even say that. For some people, that's a once in a lifetime experience, if ever. But something about being in a metal tube for 24 hours, your brain, it starts playing the worst case scenario. And I think a lot of people have this, like, what if something happens to me midway over the Pacific? Statistically absurd. Sam, why are you worried about that? You've more chances of, winning the lottery or being hit by lightning. But try telling that to your imagination at 38,000 feet into the sky. The weird thing is, even though I've been on long haul flights so many times now, I've never really shaken that fear, and I don't know why. And the reason why I've added this to the video is that I know as a Brit, married to an Australian, we will be spending time in both countries. We have to, for our families. But anyway, this brings me to the last one, number 7, the fear of loving it too much. Oh, is someone gonna vomit from all the cringe of this overly positive ending? No one talks about this though. What if you build a life here and you don't want to go back? Because it's so good. The more I make these videos and talk about how my life has changed dramatically for the better after leaving the UK and living in Australia, you start worrying, what if Australia stops feeling temporary and starts feeling more permanent? So many of you lovely people in my comments who have made the moves yourself have said that you say to yourself, look, I'm only going to go to Australia for a year or two, and several decades later you're still here and you call yourself an Aussie. That kind of scares me, because I would love nothing more than the honour to be British Australian. But because then it's not just about, having a laugh about snakes, spiders and drop bears, which are very real, by the way. It's about identity. Who are you now? Are you British anymore? Are you a Brit abroad? Are you an Aussie convert? Are you just an Australian? Somewhere in between? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, and even though it changes you for the better, it's quite scary. But if you want to keep the adventure going, go watch this video here, all about the hidden reasons that Brits are absolutely flocking to Australia. And if you had enjoyed this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can join our lovely little community. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.